From the penthouse overlooking Central Park, Ethan Sterling, CEO of a tech empire, was a titan in his world, yet a tremor of unease ran through him. A Silicon Valley upstart was nipping at his heels, their new gadget threatening to eclipse Sterling Tech's flagship product. Ethan needed a game changer, fast. The annual tech summit in the city loomed, a battleground for industry dominance. He needed a compelling narrative, something beyond spreadsheets and algorithms. And then he thought of Maya, his executive assistant. Efficient, unassuming, Maya was the antidote to his world of high-stakes deals and ruthless ambition. He knew she possessed a certain guileless charm, perfect for playing a role. A risky, audacious plan began to form in his mind. "Maya, could you come in here for a sec?" Ethan buzzed, his voice crisp over the intercom. "Right away, Ethan," Maya replied, her tone always professional, always ready. Moments later, a soft knock preceded her entry. She stood framed in the doorway, notepad in hand, her expression open and attentive. Ethan swiveled in his leather chair, the city skyline a dramatic backdrop. "We're in a tight spot, Maya. This summit is critical. We need to land this massive contract, and frankly, our competition is breathing down our necks." Maya nodded, her brow furrowed slightly. "I've reviewed the project files, Ethan. It's a game changer for us." "Exactly. And I have an unconventional idea. It's about creating a certain perception." Ethan paused, gauging her reaction. The client, their old school, value tradition, family values. They need to see Sterling Tech as more than just a corporation. Maya's eyebrows lifted in question. "And how do we achieve that?" "A relationship," Ethan stated, watching her closely. "A personal connection." "Personal connection?" Maya echoed, confusion clouding her features. "Yes, a fabricated relationship. For the summit, for the client meetings, we pretend to be together. A couple." Ethan laid it out, the words hanging in the air. "They want to invest in people, Maya. A company that appears stable, happy. It's psychological." Maya stared, momentarily speechless. "You want us to fake a relationship?" "Precisely. You'd be the perfect girlfriend. Charming, genuine, someone to soften my image, distract them with a heartwarming story." Ethan pressed, laying on the charm he usually reserved for closing million-dollar deals. Hesitation flickered across Maya's face. The proposal was outlandish, career-altering. What if this backfires spectacularly? "Trust me," Ethan assured, his voice smooth as silk. "Zero downside, maximum upside. We secure this contract, it's a win for everyone. And after, poof, it never happened. No one needs to know it was performance art." Maya considered it. Her life was predictable, safe. This was insane. But a thrill, a dangerous allure sparked within her. She thought of her cramped Brooklyn apartment, her routine existence. This was a ticket to a different world, even if it was a fleeting illusion. "All right," she said, the word feeling foreign on her tongue. "I'll do it, but ground rules, business first. Always." Ethan's practiced smile widened, genuine satisfaction replacing the calculated charm. "Deal. This is going to be legendary, and hey, if it works, we'll have a hell of a story to tell at the Christmas party." As Maya left his office, a tremor of unease mixed with a strange sense of anticipation settled in her stomach. Legendary, yes, but for better or worse. Ethan, oblivious to her inner turmoil, already envisioned victory, the contract signed, his company untouchable. He was a master strategist, but love, or even its counterfeit, was a game he'd never played. He was dangerously unaware that this charade was about to rewrite his entire playbook. The days leading up to the summit were a whirlwind of clandestine planning. Maya, usually immersed in spreadsheets and scheduling, was now dissecting articles on power couples and practicing coy smiles in the office restroom mirror. The sheer absurdity of it all kept her teetering between nervous laughter and outright panic. Pretending to be Ethan Sterling's girlfriend? It was like stepping into a movie, a rom-com gone corporate espionage. But beneath the anxiety, a flicker of excitement ignited. She was breaking free from her routine, even if it was on borrowed time, in a fabricated reality. Ethan, ever the control freak, orchestrated every detail. They rehearsed their meet-cute story, a chance encounter at a charity gala naturally. They curated a shared history, complete with invented anecdotes about weekend getaways to the Hamptons and shared passions for obscure art films neither had actually seen. He even dictated acceptable levels of public affection, hand-holding, arm-linking, cheek kisses, all meticulously choreographed. During these rehearsals, Maya glimpsed a different Ethan. Beneath the polished CEO veneer, a man wrestled with his own vulnerabilities. He cracked jokes, self-deprecating ones, that hinted at insecurities she'd never suspected. He was still demanding, still driven, but a crack of humanity had appeared in his carefully constructed facade. This unexpected vulnerability intrigued her, stirring emotions she hadn't anticipated. It was like seeing a familiar landmark from a completely new angle, suddenly noticing details she'd missed before. The night before the summit, Maya packed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The clothes Ethan's stylist had picked out for her felt foreign, glamorous. Her usual uniform of sensible skirts and blouses seemed like a lifetime ago. What started as a professional gamble now felt like a tightrope walk over an emotional abyss. Could she pull this off? Could Ethan? And what would happen when the act ended, when the curtain fell on their fabricated romance? Summit Day dawned crisp and bright, Manhattan buzzing with its usual frenetic energy. At the airport, paparazzi, alerted by Ethan's PR team, snapped photos as Maya arrived. Ethan was already there waiting, a practiced smile plastered on his face. They greeted each other like seasoned actors, Ethan's arm looping around Maya's waist, a possessive gesture for the cameras. They posed, radiating manufactured happiness, for the flashing bulbs, their practiced smiles masking the turmoil beneath. As they walked towards the gate, Maya felt a swarm of butterflies erupt in her stomach. This wasn't just a job anymore. The lines were blurring, the act taking on a disconcerting reality. "Ready for this?" Ethan murmured, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. "Let's make it happen," Maya replied, her own voice barely a whisper. "But remember, this is just work." She needed to reiterate the boundary, the wall between their performance and their actual lives. But a treacherous little voice inside whispered, "Maybe, maybe not." The summit, the charade, it was all about to begin, and neither of them knew where it would truly lead. The crucial client presentation was 2 days away. Ethan, ever meticulous, declared a strategy dinner, a chance to deepen their performance, to solidify the illusion of coupledom. He chose a dimly lit, intimate restaurant in the West Village, all exposed brick and hushed tones. When Maya arrived, Ethan rose, a genuine smile lighting his face. "Va, you look incredible," he said, using her new girlfriend name for the first time outside of rehearsals. "Then," she replied, playing along, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. "Ready for our Oscar-worthy performance?" As they settled at their table, Ethan signaled for a bottle of expensive wine. "Okay, Ava," he began, his tone shifting to serious. "Performance prep time. Tell me, what do you really want out of life?" Maya blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "The client," Ethan explained. "They'll want to know about Ava. Not just Sterling Tech's assistant. What are your passions, dreams? We need to build a believable backstory." But as Maya spoke, something shifted. She talked about her quiet ambitions, her love for coding, her desire to create technology that actually helped people. Ethan listened, truly listened, his usual boardroom intensity softening. He learned about her small-town upbringing, her quirky sense of humor, her hidden artistic talents. "Wow," Ethan said, genuinely impressed as she finished. "You're amazing, Ava. Way more than just efficient assistant." Maya flushed, a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the wine. "And you're surprisingly human, Ethan, underneath the CEO armor." A shared laugh broke the tension. The conversation flowed, easy and unguarded. Ethan revealed his own hidden passions, his love for vintage motorcycles, his secret desire to write a screenplay. Maya saw glimpses of the man beneath the mogul, the person buried under layers of ambition and control. "So," Ethan said, leaning forward, a teasing glint in his eyes, "how are we going to sell Passionate Couple at the presentation?" "We'll wing it," Maya replied, a newfound confidence rising within her. "We're both good actors now, right?" But the unspoken question hung in the air. Were they still acting? The light-hearted mood shattered as a voice, smooth and laced with ice, cut through the cozy atmosphere. "Well, well, Ethan, brought a date, have you?" Maya turned to see Wosisi, woman approaching, elegant and predatory with eyes that could cut glass. It was Serena Vance, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. And now, Maya realized with a jolt, his direct competitor. Serena's gaze flicked to Maya, assessing, dismissive. "And you must be..." Maya supplied, extending a hand, trying to maintain composure. "Nice to meet you. I'm representing Sterling Tech." Serena's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Serena Vance, Vance Industries. We're acquainted with Ethan." Acquainted is an understatement, Ethan said, his voice hardening, the easy camaraderie gone. Indeed, Serena purred, ignoring Ethan and turning back to Maya. So you're the new acquisition? Filling a very specific role, I presume? Her tone was dripping with insinuation. Maya felt a blush creeping up her neck. Serena saw right through their charade, and she was enjoying it. Serena, what do you want? Ethan's voice was sharp, clipped. Just checking in on the competition, Serena said, her gaze lingering on Maya, and offering a word of advice. Fake relationships are so fragile, especially in the spotlight. Enjoy it while it lasts. With a final chilling smile, Serena turned and glided away, leaving a cloud of unease in her wake. Do you know her? Maya asked, the question hanging in the air. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Serena? Yeah, we dated, briefly. Before that, she worked for me. It didn't end well, and now she's at Vance, my worst nightmare competitor. Could she expose us? Maya's voice was tight with worry. She's definitely capable of it, Ethan admitted, his brow furrowed. Serena plays dirty. I'll do my best, Maya said, placing a hand over his on the table, a gesture of comfort, of solidarity, or was it something more? Ethan squeezed her hand, his gaze meeting hers, a flicker of something unexpected in his eyes. I know you will, Ava, and together we'll win this. I believe in us. The tension Serena unleashed lingered, a cold undercurrent beneath the surface. The dinner, once lighthearted, now felt fraught with uncertainty. As they left the restaurant, the city lights blurring around them, Maya wondered if their carefully constructed facade was already cracking. Serena was a wild card, a potential detonator for their entire plan. And Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest threat wasn't the competition, but the dangerous, unpredictable game they were playing with each other. The charade was no longer just business. It was becoming something far more complex and far more perilous. The 2 days after the dinner were a pressure cooker. Maya and Ethan were inseparable, not just rehearsing their roles as lovers, but meticulously dissecting the client's needs, refining their presentation until it was razor sharp. They spent hours in strategy sessions, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, the lines between work and performance blurring further with each passing moment. The tension was palpable, a live wire humming between them. But amidst the stress, a strange intimacy bloomed. Maya found herself anticipating Ethan's jokes, finishing his sentences, understanding his unspoken anxieties. Ethan, in turn, began to rely on Maya's insights, her fresh perspective cutting through his usual tunnel vision. Laughter echoed in their late-night work sessions. Arguments sparked and resolved, a rhythm of collaboration and connection developing that felt surprisingly real. The day of the presentation arrived, heavy with anticipation. Maya woke before dawn, a nervous energy thrumming through her veins. This wasn't just about landing a contract. It was about the credibility of their entire charade, about the tangled web of emotions they'd woven. As she dressed, her heart hammered against her ribs. What had seemed like a calculated risk now felt like a high-stakes gamble with her own emotions. At breakfast, Ethan appeared. His usual tailored perfection slightly rumpled, a shadow of fatigue under his eyes. He was tense, his usual CEO confidence replaced by a raw vulnerability. They sat at a quiet table, the hotel restaurant bustling around them, and went over the presentation one last time. The conversation was clipped, focused, but beneath the surface, an unspoken anxiety simmered. I think we're ready, Ethan said finally, his voice low. What are you hoping to hear from them? That they see the value in our work, Maya replied, her voice soft. That all this means something. The words hung in the air, weighted with unspoken meaning. The light breakfast ended, the moment of truth looming. As they walked towards the presentation room, the energy crackled around them. Ethan presented with his usual commanding presence, Maya a poised and articulate partner. She contributed insights, fielded questions with confidence, her passion for the project shining through. Ethan watched her, a flicker of admiration, something deeper in his eyes. A new dynamic was forming, something beyond the script they'd rehearsed. But as the presentation progressed, a wave of doubt washed over Maya. It was all fake. The relationship, the smiles, the carefully constructed intimacy, a performance for a client, a means to an end. Emotions were swirling, blurring the lines, and the fear that she was losing herself in the act intensified. Was any of this real, or was she just a pawn in Ethan's game? After the presentation, Ethan turned to Maya, relief flooding his features. You were incredible, Ava. They were blown away, especially by you. Thanks, Ethan, Maya replied, trying to keep her voice even, professional. Your leadership, it helped. She kept the conversation focused on work, desperate to maintain some semblance of control. Just then, Serena Vance materialized, her smile razor sharp. Bravo, Ethan, darling, and girlfriend, quite the performance. Someone's having fun. Before Ethan could retort, a distinguished looking man approached, the lead director from the client company. Ethan, Ava, fantastic presentation, and you two make a great couple. We like to do business with families. Builds trust. He shook Ethan's hand, beaming. Ethan's smile faltered, replaced by a strained awkwardness. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Their charade was working. Perhaps too well. The director's words were a stark reminder of the precariousness of their position, the potential for exposure, for everything to unravel. And the unsettling question echoed in her mind. What if her feelings for Ethan were becoming real? Let's celebrate, Ethan said, his voice too bright, too enthusiastic, masking the tension. He was oblivious to the turmoil raging within Maya. She nodded, a hollow smile plastered on her face. Celebrate what? The success of a lie? The growing chasm between their performance and her increasingly complicated feelings? As they walked away, Maya's mind raced. Was this connection real, or just a byproduct of their elaborate game? The celebration felt hollow, the future uncertain. And the charade, she realized, was becoming more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. The director's comment about families working better together echoed in Maya's mind, a jarring reminder of the emotional quicksand they were navigating. Each interaction with Ethan, each shared laugh, each stolen glance was blurring the lines between their fabricated relationship and something else. He was no longer just her boss, her co-conspirator in a business scheme. He was becoming someone significant, and that terrified her. Ethan, oblivious to Maya's inner struggle, was buzzing with the presentation's success. But Serena's shadow lingered, a nagging worry in the back of his mind. He knew Serena's competitive streak, her ruthlessness. Her presence at the summit wasn't coincidence. She was playing a game, and he was certain it involved more than just business. His gaze drifted to Maya, lost in thought, her usual bright energy dimmed. Hey, you okay? He asked, as they navigated the crowded hotel lobby after the event. Maya blinked, pulling herself back to the present. Yeah, fine. Just a lot to process. She offered a weak smile, not wanting to reveal the emotional maelstrom inside. Ethan nodded, sensing her unease. I get it, but we nailed it today. That contract is practically ours. He tried to inject enthusiasm into his voice to lighten the mood. Let's go for a walk, clear our heads before dinner. Maya agreed, grateful for the escape. A walk in the city might offer some clarity, some distance from the suffocating intensity of the summit. As they stepped out into the vibrant New York night, the pressure of their roles seemed to dissipate, replaced by a fragile lightness. You know, Ava, Ethan began, his voice softer now. When I first met you, I never imagined any of this. Faking a relationship to close a deal, it's insane. Maya laughed, a genuine laugh this time, shaking her head. Life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? The conversation shifted, drifting away from work, away from obligations. They talked about their lives beyond Sterling Tech, about unfulfilled dreams, places they longed to visit, even the quiet fears they rarely voiced. Each shared word chipped away at the facade, revealing a vulnerability, a genuine connection that resonated deeper than their practiced smiles and fabricated anecdotes. As the evening deepened, Maya realized the impossible. The relationship born of a professional agreement was blossoming. Unexpected, illogical, yet undeniably present. But the fear of losing herself in this illusion, of mistaking performance for reality, gnawed at her. They reached the restaurant, its entrance bathed in warm light. Maya hesitated at the door, her thoughts swirling, a knot of uncertainty tightening in her stomach. Ethan, thank you for today. It was special. She met his gaze, searching for answers, for truth, in the depths of his eyes. Ethan smiled, a smile that reached beyond his practiced charm, reflecting a mix of gratitude, something more. The pleasure was all mine, Ava. And no matter what happens, I want you to know. I admire you, your talent, your courage. His words, sincere, weighted with unspoken meaning, left Maya breathless. As they stepped into the restaurant, the celebratory buzz fading into background noise, Maya knew one thing for sure. The dinner wasn't just a celebration of a successful presentation. It was a celebration of a spark, a fragile, dangerous spark igniting between them. And the question was, would it ignite into a flame or burn them both to ashes? During the celebratory dinner, the weight of their charade pressed down on Maya. Each moment spent beside Ethan, playing the role of his adoring girlfriend, intensified the turmoil within her. What was meant to be a joyous occasion felt like an internal battleground. Separating her genuine emotions from the performance was becoming agonizingly difficult. They were supposed to be acting, but the line between pretense and reality was dissolving, the emotional strain becoming almost unbearable. Ethan, however, seemed focused on the results, oblivious to the storm raging within Maya. He smiled at her, a smile that sent shivers down her spine, stirring feelings she desperately tried to suppress. "Everything okay, Ava?" he asked, his gaze intense. "You seem worried." "Worried about being exposed," Maya replied, her voice steadier than she felt, her vulnerability threatening to surface. "It's hard, maintaining this act with everyone watching." Ethan nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. The pressure wasn't solely on Maya. He too felt the weight of their deception, the precariousness of their situation. Yet, in his mind, business still took precedence. Maya felt exposed, vulnerable, her carefully constructed walls crumbling. Meanwhile, at a nearby table, Serena Vance watched them, her gaze predatory, a smirk playing on her lips. She was a shark circling wounded prey, sensing weakness, ready to exploit it. Serena knew Ethan's history, his vulnerabilities, his past mistakes. Their shared history, both professional and personal, gave Serena an advantage, a weapon she wouldn't hesitate to wield. She had become an unwelcome specter, intent on sabotaging not just their business deal, but something far more personal. Serena rose, her movements fluid, predatory, and approached their table. "Well, well, look who it is. The power couple of the moment. Ethan, darling, you certainly have a type. I hope she's up to the task." Her words, laced with venom, struck Maya like a physical blow. Maya's insecurity flared. Serena's calculated cruelty was designed to wound, to expose the fragility of their facade. Ethan tensed, his smile faltering. "Serena, what a surprise. And you? What have you been up to, besides stalking your ex-employees?" "Just observing," Serena purred, her gaze fixed on Maya. It's always fascinating to watch a CEO leverage his personal life to distract the competition. So transparently manipulative, but entertaining. Serena was certain their relationship was a sham, a carefully orchestrated PR stunt, and she was determined to expose the truth, to watch Ethan's carefully constructed world crumble. The tension thickened, suffocating. Maya felt a desperate urge to defuse the situation, to protect herself, to salvage what little composure she had left. "We're here to discuss business, Serena. Perhaps we could focus on that?" But her attempt at diplomacy only fueled Serena's malicious amusement. "Business?" Serena scoffed. "Oh, darling, everything is business with Ethan, even romance." Serena's words were like acid burning through Maya's carefully constructed defenses. Ethan, finally losing his carefully maintained composure, interjected, his voice clipped. "Serena, we should get back to our meal. Unless you have a legitimate business proposal to discuss, I suggest you leave us alone." Defeated, but far from deterred, Serena retreated to her table, her eyes still locked on them, a silent promise of future disruption hanging in the air. The sting of her words lingered, poisoning the atmosphere. Maya watched Ethan, trying to decipher the emotions flickering across his face. As the dinner wore on, the discomfort intensified. Maya was exhausted, emotionally drained. What had begun as a thrilling game, a chance for professional advancement, now felt like a minefield of emotions, each step fraught with danger. She realized the encounters with Serena weren't just annoying intrusions. They were stark reminders that the charade couldn't last forever. Driven by a desperate need for clarity, Maya decided to abandon her carefully constructed shield and confront Ethan directly. "Ethan," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "why did you really do this? Was it just a distraction, or was there something more?" Her questions hung in the air, heavy with doubt, with vulnerability. Ethan's answer, she knew, could shatter everything. Ethan met her gaze, the festive atmosphere of the restaurant fading into insignificance. "You know, Ava," he said, his voice low, serious, "I didn't expect Serena to show up to disrupt things. The truth is, I want to win this contract. Desperately." He paused, taking a deep breath, struggling for words. "And business is my priority. Always has been." He tried to recapture his CEO persona, the mask of control, but it was slipping. But this charade, it's becoming complicated. The tension between them was suffocating. Maya knew she needed to be brutally honest, to cut through the layers of pretense. We need to be clear with each other, Ethan. This act, it has real consequences. If we're trying to build something real, we need to decide. Which direction are we going? As she spoke, Maya realized the lines were irrevocably blurred. The charade, the feelings, they were intertwined, a tangled mess of truth and fiction. The future, she knew, hinged on their next words, on the fragile sincerity they could muster. The confrontation during dinner left Maya reeling. The night passed in a blur of restless sleep, Ethan's words echoing in her mind, his intentions murky, unsettling. What had started as a calculated plan to win a client was morphing into an emotional labyrinth, increasingly complex, increasingly dangerous. The tension between them was a taut wire, vibrating with unspoken desires, conflicting agendas, and Maya knew she couldn't continue living in this state of limbo. With each passing moment, the charade they had meticulously constructed was twisting, distorting, revealing uncomfortable truths, and unleashing a torrent of conflicting emotions. The next morning, Maya resolved to force a reckoning. At breakfast, she found Ethan more composed than the night before, a forced smile playing on his lips. He poured coffee, a practiced ritual, but Maya saw through the facade. He was wary, guarded, as if bracing himself for the inevitable fallout. "Ethan," Maya began, her voice firm, resolute. "We need to talk. Seriously." Ethan's smile faded. "Okay," he said, his voice tight. "What's on your mind?" "We can't keep doing this," Maya stated, the words hanging heavy in the air. This pretense, it's not just about business anymore. It's affecting me." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering across his features. "Affecting you? How?" Maya took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Her words needed to be precise, deliberate. "We're pretending to be a couple," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But things are getting complicated. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what this is." Uncertainty clung to every syllable. Ethan frowned, his brow furrowed. "We're just following the plan, Ava." "And that's the problem," Maya retorted, frustration lacing her voice. "Serena called it a sham, and now I feel like I'm losing control. What do we really want, Ethan? Did you just choose me for this? Is it really not personal at all?" The questions tumbled out, raw, vulnerable. Ethan averted his gaze as if processing the weight of her words. "Ava," he said finally, his voice softer now, I know this started as a strategy, but over the course of this trip, you've become important to me. I didn't want things to get this way, but feelings change." His sincerity, however hesitant, struck a chord within Maya, but also ignited a fresh wave of insecurity. "Change how, Ethan?" Maya asked, crossing her arms defensively, as if shielding herself from the emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "You just wanted to use this to distract the competition, didn't you? I'm just a piece in your game." Ethan hesitated, the weight of the situation etched on his face. I thought you agreed to this." His CEO confidence was crumbling, replaced by a raw vulnerability. "I did," Maya replied, her voice barely a whisper. "But you said it yourself. Feelings change, Ethan. Mine have changed a lot." A sigh escaped her lips, heavy with the unspoken. I thought this would be easy, a trick, a way to buy time, but now I'm not sure if it's just a game anymore." Ethan's confession hung in the air, a fragile bridge between them. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken emotions, with the raw honesty finally breaking through the facade. What if this was more than just work? What if the charade had unearthed something genuine, something unexpected? I don't want to just be a tool for you, Ethan." Maya's vulnerability poured out, leaving her feeling exposed, fragile. I never wanted you to feel that way," Ethan said, his voice low, sincere. I like you, Ava. What started as a plan, it's become something I value. But I can't just throw it all away. The contract, everything, businesses." His carefully constructed world was teetering on the brink. With a trembling voice, Ethan revealed a sliver of his truth, a crack in the wall between them. Maya felt a dizzying mix of hope and doubt. The idea that Ethan might actually feel something for her was intoxicating, confusing, but the stark reality of their charade still loomed, casting a long shadow over their fragile connection. "We need to reevaluate," Maya said, her voice regaining a sliver of resolve. "We have to focus on the presentation, on our strategy, but we can't risk our feelings. Let's prioritize our work. Set everything else aside." Her heart ached with conflict. She didn't want to jeopardize everything they had built, professionally, because of emotions that scared her, emotions she barely understood. Ethan agreed, albeit reluctantly. "You're right. Focus. We need to stay focused." But his gaze lingered on her, his voice softening. "But Ava, I want you to know I appreciate you, not just professionally, but personally too." His words were a hesitant breath of fresh air, a small crack of light in the darkness. But Maya knew the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. The atmosphere between them had shifted, subtly, almost imperceptibly. But the confusion, the unspoken tension, remained. Maya felt a fragile sense of relief, but knew deep down that the situation was far from resolved. They had found a fragile truce, a temporary reprieve. But they would need to find a middle ground, a way to navigate the treacherous terrain between performance and reality, until the moment of truth arrived, when the charade would end and everything could change. The uneasy truce settled between Maya and Ethan, a fragile calm after their turbulent conversation. They both retreated into the familiar territory of work, burying themselves in preparations for the corporate event, the new product launch looming large. But the emotional undercurrent remained, a silent hum beneath the surface of their professional interactions. They were both acutely aware that their emotions were raw, exposed, teetering on the edge. The next day was dominated by the product launch event, a high-stakes affair where Sterling Tech would unveil their new innovation to investors, industry leaders, and the press. Maya woke early, the city still shrouded in pre-dawn darkness, a knot of anxiety twisting in her stomach. The event wasn't just a crucial moment for the company, it was a crucible for their charade, a test of their ability to maintain the illusion under intense scrutiny. The pressure was immense, amplifying her inner conflict, the fear of exposure battling with the burgeoning, confusing feelings for Ethan. The thought of facing the crowds, the cameras, the knowing eyes filled her with a sense of dread. As she prepared, Maya meticulously reviewed the presentation materials, her movements mechanical, her mind racing. She practiced her lines, her voice echoing in the quiet apartment, trying to visualize success, to banish the creeping sense of unease. Ethan arrived at her hotel suite, his usual tailored precision replaced by a hurried, almost frantic energy. She noticed the tightness around his eyes, the subtle tremor in his hands. He was anxious, more so than she'd ever seen him. Was his anxiety purely professional, or was it intertwined with the tangled emotions between them? The tension in the room was almost palpable, a silent storm gathering momentum. When they arrived at the event venue, a sprawling space overlooking the city, the hall was already buzzing with activity. Potential investors, industry analysts, journalists, a sea of expectant faces. The atmosphere was charged, electric, a mix of anticipation and scrutiny. Maya felt a wave of claustrophobia wash over her, the electrifying energy around her clashing with the turmoil within her. Caught between the laser focus required for the presentation and the chaotic swirl of her emotions, Maya felt like she was walking a tightrope, one wrong step away from falling into the abyss. Ethan took the stage, commanding attention with his practiced charisma. He launched into the presentation, articulate, persuasive, showcasing the new product with his trademark blend of confidence and passion. Maya seamlessly stepped into her role, a poised and knowledgeable partner, interjecting with key insights, answering technical questions with effortless expertise. They moved with a fluid, almost intuitive synergy, years of working together translating into a seamless performance. Their practice dynamic lent an air of authenticity, a sense of shared purpose that even Maya found momentarily convincing. But then, during a Q&A session, an investor, a seasoned veteran with shrewd eyes, posed a question that sent a jolt of ice through Maya's veins. "And what about your relationship, Ethan? Everyone here is curious. What's the secret to such a successful partnership, both professionally and personally?" A ripple of laughter spread through the audience, a collective curiosity focused on them. The question was seemingly innocuous, but it was a loaded grenade, a direct challenge to their carefully constructed charade. It was a moment of truth, a test of their ability to maintain the illusion under fire. "Ethan, ever quick on his feet, responded with a practiced charm, a playful deflection. Our secret? Simple. Trust and communication. Key ingredients in any successful venture, wouldn't you agree? He glanced at Maya, a silent plea for support in his eyes. Outwardly, Maya smiled, playing her part, reinforcing the facade. But inside, a wave of insecurity surged, threatening to shatter her composure. The question, seemingly lighthearted, had exposed the fragility of their pretense, the precariousness of their carefully crafted lie. How much longer could they keep this up, and at what cost? As the presentation concluded, the event transitioned into a cocktail reception, the hall buzzing with conversations, deals being brokered, connections being made. As Maya and Ethan navigated the mingling crowd, the questions about their relationship persisted, whispered inquiries, knowing glances, the unspoken curiosity hanging heavy in the air. One executive, a jovial, backslapping type, clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "You two make a great team, Ethan. Not just in the boardroom, but outside of it too, eh?" The words echoed in Maya's mind, a constant, unsettling reminder. Everyone was watching, scrutinizing, waiting for confirmation of the lie they were living. The weight of the charade was becoming suffocating, unbearable. While they circulated, Maya seized a moment of relative privacy to broach the subject, her voice low, urgent. "Ethan," she murmured, pulling him slightly aside, "why did you take this risk? Using this relationship as a strategy, aren't you worried it could backfire, harm your reputation?" Ethan met her gaze, his usual confidence momentarily faltering. I thought a relationship would give us credibility, draw investors' attention. But now," he sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration, of vulnerability. "Now I realize it might be more of a liability than an asset. I should have been more honest from the start." In that moment, a shift occurred within Maya. The weight of the pretense, the suffocating pressure became unbearable. "The truth is, Ethan," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I can't keep faking this. It's affecting me deeply." She met his gaze, her own raw, vulnerable, demanding honesty. "What about you? How do you really feel about all of this?" To her surprise, Ethan sighed, a sound of weary resignation. "I'm drawn to you, Ava," he admitted, his voice low, almost hesitant. "And that's made everything infinitely more complicated. I don't know how to separate what's real from what's part of the act anymore. And when Serena made that comment, I realized we might have gone too far." A heavy silence descended between them, the reality of their tangled situation sinking in. Maya knew, with a chilling certainty, that they were hurtling towards a reckoning. The facade they had created was on the verge of collapse, and the consequences, whatever they might be, could no longer be ignored. Lost in her tumultuous thoughts, Maya felt the festive atmosphere of the event recede, the noise and chatter fading into a distant hum. Her candid conversation with Ethan had left her more disoriented than ever. She knew she needed to confront the chaotic emotions swirling within her, to find some semblance of clarity amidst the confusion. But her uncertainties only deepened, the path forward obscured by a fog of doubt and fear. The cocktail reception continued around them, a whirlwind of networking and industry buzz. But Maya felt increasingly detached, isolated, consumed by her inner turmoil. After a few more strained moments, she knew she needed to escape, to breathe, to find some semblance of peace. "Ethan," she murmured, her voice barely audible above the din. I need some air, just for a minute." Without waiting for a response, she turned and slipped away from the crowded hall, her movements almost frantic. She found herself on the hotel terrace, the vast expanse of the illuminated city stretching before her, a breathtaking panorama that offered a momentary balm to her restless mind. The cool night air was a welcome relief, a temporary respite from the suffocating pressure of the event, but the fragile peace didn't last. Moments later, she sensed a presence behind her, a familiar warmth, a hesitant voice. "Ava?" Ethan's voice, soft, laced with concern. "Are you okay?" Maya hesitated, her back still turned, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. "I'm trying to make sense of all this," she said, her voice thick with emotion. It's hard, Ethan. So hard. To tell what's real, what's not. And with Serena lurking around every corner, it's all just too much." Vulnerability poured out of her, a dam finally breaking. Ethan moved closer, his presence a silent comfort. "I know," he said, his voice low, understanding. "The truth is, I didn't want it to get like this. I thought I thought it would be simple, strategic, but he sighed, the weight of his confession hanging in the air. But you, Ava, you've become important to me, unexpectedly. And I never planned for that. I never planned to get this involved. Then why? Maya asked, finally turning to face him, tears welling in her eyes. Why did you choose me, Ethan? For this charade? Her voice cracked, raw with hurt, with confusion. I know you used me, part of a plan. But why me? Ethan hesitated, his gaze dropping to the terrace floor, shame flickering across his features. To be honest, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, I thought you'd be easy to convince, unassuming. I didn't think you'd care this much. His words hit Maya like a physical blow, a cold, brutal confirmation of her deepest fears. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't bear to be in the same space as him any longer. Everything ached, a dull, throbbing pain centered in her chest, radiating outwards, especially her heart. I need to leave, she choked out, turning abruptly, fleeing the terrace, fleeing the event, fleeing the crushing weight of his words. Certain now, with a devastating clarity, that she needed to escape, to disappear, to salvage what little remained of herself. Anger, raw and potent, surged through Maya, eclipsing the sadness, the disappointment. She couldn't stay, couldn't pretend any longer. The charade had become a suffocating trap, and Ethan's callous admission had shattered any lingering illusions. She fled the terrace, her heels clicking sharply on the stone floor, the sounds of laughter and chatter fading behind her, replaced by the frantic rhythm of her own heartbeat. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away, to escape the gilded cage of the summit, the suffocating presence of Ethan, the crushing weight of her own shattered hopes. The cool night air, once a welcome relief, now felt like a bitter wind, chilling her to the bone. Ethan, seeing her flee, reacted instantly, driven by a desperate urgency he barely understood. Ava, wait, he called out, his voice echoing in the empty corridor. He pursued her, his CEO composure completely abandoned, replaced by a raw, primal need to stop her, to explain, to somehow salvage the wreckage of their disastrous conversation. Ava, please, he called again, his voice laced with desperation. But she didn't stop, didn't even falter, her figure disappearing into the labyrinthine hallways of the hotel. Serena's words about the charade, about its fragility, echoed in Maya's mind, a mocking soundtrack to her desperate flight. The emotions between them, once a confusing tangle, were now unraveling completely, leaving behind only raw hurt and bitter disappointment. She felt exposed, vulnerable, stripped bare, and all she wanted was to disappear, to vanish, to erase the past few weeks from her memory. Ethan, adrenaline coursing through him, finally caught up to her in a small, secluded alcove, a quiet oasis tucked away from the bustling event. Only a few scattered guests lingered there, their conversations muted, indistinct. He was breathless, his chest heaving, the urgency in his voice unmistakable. Please don't go, he pleaded, his voice raw with emotion. What happened back there, on the terrace, it's nothing. Nothing compared to what you mean to me. Maya turned to face him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, her expression a mixture of pain and disbelief. How can you say that, Ethan? She whispered, her voice choked with emotion. After everything I just heard? You used me, isn't it clear? What we are, and now I see it. It was just a business plan. For you. Frustration, sadness, a profound sense of betrayal colored every syllable. Ethan hesitated, a flicker of something akin to shame crossing his features. You don't understand, he said, his voice low, desperate. I never wanted this to happen. The plan, it was to distract Serena, the competition, and honestly, I thought I could keep emotions out of it, but I can't anymore. Ava, you've become important to me, truly. Maya took a ragged breath, running a trembling hand through her hair. That's not enough, Ethan, she said, her voice barely audible above the hum of the hotel air conditioning. And honestly, I don't know how you can justify this charade. I'm not a chess piece, Ethan. You can't just move me around as you like. This relationship, it started as a plan, and now it feels like we're trapping each other in something that will never be real. Ethan looked at her, the weight of her words crushing him. He had let his ambition, his strategic thinking override his humanity, and now the truth was laid bare between them, stark and unforgiving. That was never my intention, he stammered, his voice thick with regret. I really care about you, Ava, but I didn't know how to handle this. The pressure of maintaining the charade, it's made everything confusing. At that moment, the full weight of their situation crashed down upon them both. Maya realized their fragile connection was unraveling, dissolving into a sea of uncertainty. If you chose me, she said, her voice trembling, because you thought I was easy to manipulate, then I don't think I can keep going. What happened between us? It can't be reduced to a strategy, Ethan. Ethan's expression shifted, revealing the internal battle raging within him. He stepped closer to Maya, his voice softening, pleading. What if instead of walking away, we tried to be honest about who we really are? I want this to work, Ava, this feeling. But I know you need space. Still, I want you to know what's happening between us. It's real. To me, my feelings, they're genuine, Ava. But can't you see, if we're honest, everything could fall apart. The contract, the company, what happened on this trip, it could have serious consequences for both of us. Maya's heart ached, torn between the desperate longing to believe him, to connect with him, and the ingrained need to protect herself from further hurt. Maybe, she said, her voice barely a whisper, maybe the truth is what we need now, Ethan. A fragile hope flickered within her, a desperate gamble on honesty, on vulnerability. Maybe if we have to confront how we really feel, then so be it. We can't keep living in this uncertainty. It's time to decide, Ethan. What do we want from each other, and is it worth it? The choice hung between them, heavy, momentous, a crossroads that could lead to either complete destruction or an unexpected, fragile new beginning. Maya and Ethan stood in the hushed alcove, enveloped by an almost unbearable tension. The city skyline, a breathtaking backdrop, went completely unnoticed. They were locked in their own private drama, the stakes far higher than any business deal, any corporate strategy. The charade, their carefully constructed fortress of lies, was crumbling around them, and the raw, unvarnished truth demanded to be confronted. We need to speak openly, Maya began, her voice regaining a fragile steadiness, a newfound resolve. Honesty, she realized, was the only path forward, however treacherous. Without masks, without pretense. I need to understand, Ethan, how do you really feel about me? What does this mean? To you, I can't leave here with more uncertainty. Ethan took a deep breath, the air hissing through his teeth. I wasn't prepared for this, Ava, for what happened between us. To be honest, I thought the act was just that, an act, a strategy. But as we got to know each other better, I realized this was more than a plan. I liked you, Ava, really liked you. His words, though hesitant, sounded sincere, a fragile offering of truth. But doubt, ingrained and persistent, still gnawed at Maya's heart. What if all of this is just the pressure of the situation, Ethan? She asked, her voice laced with skepticism. What if we go back to New York and everything you feel fades away? I can't be responsible for a fleeting emotion. The feelings I have, they aren't fleeting, Ava, Ethan countered, his voice stronger now, a flicker of conviction in his eyes. What we experienced here at the summit, it's real. Yes, it may have started as a strategy, but now it matters to me. What I mean is, the truth, Ava, the truth is, I won't just fade away. I'm ready to fight for it. Ethan's declaration resonated with a surprising force, a raw honesty that pierced through Maya's defenses. She felt a dizzying mix of hope and fear, the past weeks a chaotic emotional roller coaster, making it almost impossible to discern truth from fiction. If that's true, Maya said, her voice barely a whisper, what do we do now, Ethan? How do we deal with the consequences? What will people think? The practicalities, the potential fallout loomed large, threatening to extinguish the fragile spark of hope. Sometimes, Ethan replied, his voice firm, resolute. Sometimes we have to take risks, Ava, for what's right, for what's real, for us. We can be honest about what happened and handle the reactions. The truth is, The only opinion that matters to me now is yours. If I've pushed you away with my strategies, with my manipulation, I'll have to rebuild your trust. As for what others might think, I can't control that. Maya hesitated, her mind racing, weighing the impossible choices before her. The prospect of taking this leap of faith, of embracing vulnerability, terrified her. But at the same time, a small, insistent voice whispered in her heart, urging her to trust, to believe, to take a chance. Does that mean we'd have to be seen together, not as a fake couple, but as two real people with feelings for each other? Exactly, Ethan confirmed, his gaze unwavering, resolute. Accepting vulnerability, it's part of what we need to do, Ava. We have to face not only our feelings, but also what this means, socially, professionally. We can't keep pretending. At first, the idea of exposing her raw emotions, of laying bare her soul, filled Maya with dread. But then, a strange sense of liberation washed over her. The weight of their lies, the suffocating pretense, had been a heavy burden, and the possibility that the truth, however daunting, might bring a measure of release, of authenticity, was tempting. If we're going to be honest, Maya said, her voice gaining strength, resolve hardening her features, then we need to do it now. I'm ready to face what comes next. Their decision, unspoken yet palpable, marked a profound turning point. Both knew this choice was a precipice, a point of no return, but in that shared moment of vulnerability, of fragile honesty, they were ready to leap together. Clara and Daniel returned to the hotel hall, their hands brushing lightly, a silent pact forged in the quiet alcove. As they re-entered the bustling space, a palpable shift in the atmosphere washed over them. Every eye seemed to turn their way, a collective breath held, especially Serena's, her gaze sharp, predatory, fixed on them from across the room. The air crackled with anticipation, the unspoken question hanging heavy. What would happen next? Ethan stepped forward, his voice clear, resonant, cutting through the murmur of conversations. "Excuse me, everyone. If I could have your attention, please." A hush fell over the room, all eyes fixed on him, on Maya. "Ava and I," Ethan continued, his voice tight with nerves but firm, resolute, "we have something to share." He paused, drawing Maya closer, her hand finding his, their fingers intertwining, a silent exchange of courage, of support. "The truth is," Ethan began again, his voice gaining strength, "what happened on this trip, it started as a facade, a strategy, but now we're truly together. We wanted to be transparent with all of you." Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her, a burden lifting, a suffocating weight finally released. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself the fragile freedom of honesty, of authenticity. Whatever happened next, whatever the consequences, didn't matter. They had taken the leap, the terrifying, liberating leap into truth. And now, everything she dared to hope could begin anew, built on a foundation of honesty, however shaky, however uncertain. After Ethan's declaration, a stunned silence descended upon the room. Every eye remained fixed on them, on Ethan and Maya, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, a ripple of whispers began to spread through the crowd, low murmurs of disbelief, of speculation. "A facade?" one guest murmured, his voice barely audible. "What do they mean, facade?" another questioned, confusion etched on his face. Weren't they really a couple? Doubts and curiosity rippled through the room, a wave of uncertainty washing over the carefully constructed image of Sterling Tech and of Ethan Sterling himself. For Maya, the act of revealing the truth was both terrifying and liberating. The weight of the charade, the constant pretense, had been a heavy burden. Now, with the truth out in the open, a sense of release, of lightness washed over her. After weeks of deception, of emotional turmoil, they were finally, truly authentic. From across the room, Serena Vance watched, her expression a complex mixture of irritation and something akin to grudging respect. Knowing Ethan as intimately as she did, she couldn't resist the opportunity to inject her brand of poison into the fragile atmosphere. "So," Serena drawled, her voice laced with sarcasm, cutting through the murmurs, "that's what you've been doing, Ethan? Leveraging your personal life as part of your strategy? How predictable. Typical Ethan. Even our past relationship, darling, was just business to you, wasn't it?" Her words were designed to wound, to undermine, to expose Ethan's vulnerabilities. But Ethan, surprisingly, remained composed, his gaze unwavering. "No, Serena," he replied, his voice firm, steady. "This time, it's different. I don't want to turn this into another competition. Ava and I, we're genuinely together. This isn't a marketing ploy." He turned to Maya, his gaze softening, a silent plea for her to stand beside him, to validate his words, to solidify their fragile truth. Drawing strength from his gaze, Maya stepped forward, her voice clear, surprisingly strong, resonating through the hushed hall. "What we've been through," she said, her gaze sweeping across the room, meeting the skeptical, curious eyes. "It's real. What started as a facade became something more meaningful. Ethan is more than just a colleague. He's someone who matters to me." Her voice, though steady, trembled slightly, a testament to the vulnerability she was embracing, the risk she was taking. A collective murmur rippled through the room, some faces softening with understanding, others remaining skeptical, unconvinced. Ethan, sensing the need to address the lingering doubts, stepped forward again, his CEO persona resurfacing, but now infused with a newfound authenticity. "I hope," he said, his voice resonant, commanding attention, "that moving forward, you'll see our relationship for what it truly is. We wanted you all to know that this won't affect our work. We're here to make things happen as a team. Sterling Tech is about innovation, about pushing boundaries, and that includes embracing honesty, even when it's unconventional." One of the potential investors, the seasoned veteran who had posed the earlier question, stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. I don't like lies, Sterling," he said directly, his gaze sharp, unwavering. "But I can see it. I can see that you truly care about each other." A flicker of a smile softened his stern features. "It takes courage to speak the truth like this, in this business." He extended his hand to Ethan, a gesture of understanding, of acceptance. Ethan grasped it, relief washing over his face, a visible weight lifting from his shoulders. Maya felt a surge of warmth, of gratitude, as she observed the shifting dynamics, the subtle tide turning in their favor. Her emotions, once carefully guarded, were now out in the open, vulnerable, exposed. But in that vulnerability, in that shared moment of honesty, the connection between her and Ethan seemed to solidify, to strengthen, becoming something far more resilient, far more real than any carefully constructed facade. Serena, however, remained unmoved, her expression a mask of skepticism, of lingering malice. "You should remember, Ethan," she said, her voice cutting through the tentative atmosphere of acceptance, "that this could have consequences. What happens," she pressed, her gaze fixed on Maya, "when things aren't as perfect as they seem? What if this is just a fleeting romance, a temporary distraction?" Her words hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the fragility of their newfound honesty, the potential for future turmoil, for the carefully constructed illusion of happiness to shatter into pieces. Ethan, a flicker of irritation crossing his features, began to respond, his voice rising in defense. But Maya, stepping forward, her voice calm, steady, intervened. "Serena," she said, meeting Serena's gaze directly, unflinchingly, "we're aware of the risks. Every relationship has its challenges, but we're committed to facing them together. What brought us together," she said, her gaze shifting to Ethan, a soft smile gracing her lips, "is stronger than any strategy, stronger than any doubt." Serena shrugged, her expression unreadable, but Maya sensed a subtle shift, a flicker of something beneath the carefully constructed facade of disdain. Jealousy, perhaps? Or perhaps a grudging acknowledgement of the genuine connection radiating between Maya and Ethan. Even Serena, with her cynicism and her bitterness, couldn't deny the undeniable truth in their eyes. The tension in the room began to dissipate, the air lightening, the initial shock giving way to a tentative acceptance. Conversations resumed, the murmurs turning into open discussions, the skepticism gradually transforming into a cautious curiosity. The team, initially stunned, began to rally around Maya and Ethan, recognizing, perhaps, that authenticity, even when born from unconventional beginnings, could be a powerful force, a catalyst for change, for genuine connection. Despite the challenges, despite the lingering uncertainties, Maya and Ethan had taken a leap of faith, a leap into truth. And in that leap, they had found something far more valuable, far more enduring than any business deal, any corporate strategy, any carefully constructed charade.